So yes, what are your main reasons for recording with tape?
Well, back in the day, that was all we had. So I was brought up with tape when I was a teenager, late teens. First recording studios were 4 tracks. In the days when it was a mystery, all of it. The recording world was an absolute mystery. So I've always known tape, and something that I always look for now that I remember then is being in a band, playing, recording, and then going in the control room and going, wow, that sounds like a record. Like shitty bands that I was in, the quality of sound, it had changed. And when I was younger, I was much more acutely aware of, I'd not experienced a recording studio hardly ever. So for me, it's a magical experience. And I think that tape was incredibly much part of that. Obviously, microphones, mixer, and all the rest of it, but it changed. My guitar didn't sound like it did coming out of the amp. It had been compressed. Maybe he had a compressor. I wouldn't even have known then. But that sound is something I've always chased my whole life, I think. And I think early days of Pro Tools and Logic, and when we first had that, I never liked the sound of it. I never liked the sound of it. But I was told, me and Jeff, when we were first working with Portishead, and we actually mixed to DAT and half-inch as well. We were told that DAT was better, back when it was first made. And I was always suspicious of that. Even though the engineers that knew, said, oh no, it's much better. I always thought it's not better. And I didn't like Pro Tools, the sound of Pro Tools early on. Our first record was made on 24 track, 2-inch, mixed to half-inch, Dummy was done on it. Obviously digital stuff, because it all came from a sampler, most of it, apart from my guitar and a few other things. So, I'm really attracted to the sound of tape. It's becoming more difficult, as we were discussing not long ago. The maintenance of tape machines is quite high, and to actually get a machine that works well is not always the easiest thing, but it is totally possible. And I've got a Revox and a Tascam 8 track, 838, whatever it's called. I haven't seen it for a while, it's in storage. But I'm really into cassettes. I've always been into cassettes. Recording onto cassette. We mixed onto cassette with Portishead sometimes. One of our tracks, Magic Doors, is recorded onto a Tascam cassette.
And is that because of the sound as well as the process, or
the sound? Yeah,
just the sound.
Yeah.
To get that sort of lo-fi-ish kind.
Yeah, but not too lo-fi. Yeah. It's not like it's totally fucked. It's kind of got an edge to it, like I'm talking about. Same with the strings we did on our second record, Portishead. We've recorded them at, we never told them this, but we recorded them at Air Studios, and then when we got back to the studio, we put them all on cassette, and it's just sounded better,
You never told who that?
The orchestra people, or anyone who's involved with it. Because it recorded at massive fidelity, obviously, and that's what you want. You don't want to, you want it, you go and record, and you want it to be as good as you can possibly get with strings, and get everything, but then you can degrade it. So.
Yes, so the degradation of the sound is sort of something that's been quite big in your production career, right? Yeah,
always, yeah. And it's a really, really fine line. It's not just getting it to sound fucked, because that's easy. Very early on Dummy, some of the early sessions were done on my tube Revox. I had an old valve Revox. I've still got it, but it just doesn't work anymore, obviously. And it sounded amazing. The top end was beautiful, with the tubes and the tape. Track called Numb on the first record. That was my Revox, me playing the double bass, and a guy called Gary playing the Hammond organ, and Clyde playing the drums, all recorded onto my stereo Revox. I've still got that tape, and if I listen to it, I can hear that sample. It's it's a magical thing. And so, yeah, always been important. It's not so much it degrading. Sometimes it is that, but it's also just giving it another level of something that we don't really get in Pro Tools. I know there's studio plugins and things that we all use now, because we want that. But if you actually record onto tape, you will get that.
And better.
And better, exactly. And really good quality machines like Studios and they're working really well. So you're not talking about degrading to distortion, but it is a distortion of some sort that our ears really like.
Yes.
Isn't it? The top end particularly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan. I struggle to keep my machines going.
With Daryl Thorpe, I spoke to recently, and he said that, you could spend 2 or 3 hours trying to get that sound, or you can just run it through tape and they've got it.
Absolutely. Here's another thing about tape. I met with a friend of mine in a band called Algiers. They're over from New York, where it's another band. And the drummer, we were talking about tape and cassettes and stuff, and we just went for coffee last night, and the drummer was saying he's just been working with producing bands in Denver, where he lives, and he's been using a Tascam 38. And these young bands have not experienced tape before, and they listen, they go, fuck me, that sounds amazing. And it's not just that, it's the fact that they have to commit. There's not the same editing possibilities as in Pro Tools, so you've got to play it to the end. You've got to play the whole song. And that's not me dissing Pro Tools or editing or anything, because I think, all things are good. We need that editing for something. We need those repetitive things, loops, whatever. That's cool. But if, you're a band playing onto tape, and that they were magically kind of transported to another world with it, And I think it's about the attitude of, you can do more takes, of course, you can overdub and all the rest of it, but you've only got a limited amount of overdubbing, and then you've got to bounce, but it's a mindset that's about tape that's different as well.
Yeah, and it's the best thing about being in a band is when you connect with each other when you're playing together, right?
Oh man!
And so if you can capture that, it's not that you need tape to do live performance recording, right?
No.
But it forces you into it, and it, like you say, it's a mindset change.
Yeah, and it's also a commitment to sound as well. Sometimes I go and do sessions with people, and they often take a DI in some of the students. I've just been doing, like some sessions down in studios in London, big studios, and they take a DI, and I'm like, why do you want the DI? Well, we might want to reamp later. Why would you want to reamp? Because the sound's coming out of my amp, It's a level of, I'm not dissing them either, so this is not a negative thing. It's just like, I like, push that fader up, that is it, or 2 mics. That's the sound, because it works with the other sound that we recorded at the time. Of course, reamping stuff is cool, and, depending on what kind of music you're making, but I just like that decision making, and tape gives you that. You can't have hundreds of different tracks to play around with and try and resculpt the tune. It can be a nightmare to try and do that. Whereas if you've got a performance on tape and the sounds are right, you've got it. Depending on what band you're working with, of course, obviously. Do
you think that limitation can actually make you more creative?
Definitely, yeah. But there's going to be 1,000 people saying, no, that's bollocks. And it, in a way, is bollocks, because being creative with editing on Pro Tools is cool as hell as well. I like all of it. There's no better or anything.
So in that sort of, with that thought in mind, the difference in, not that, like you say, nothing's better or worse, but the difference in philosophy between sort of, tracking to tape or tracking to digital in a recording studio session.
Tracking to tape, and I don't do it very much on sessions, if ever now. Yeah. I played on a couple of Marianne Faithfull records, and we recorded a couple of tunes on 24 track, and it sounded great. They wanted to do it, and they kind of dusted off the old machine and lined it up, and it sounded cool. It was a bit fucked, to be honest, the machine.
Did the atmosphere change in the sort of, for that?
It didn't actually, because we were all like seasoned players, so we were playing like that anyway, even though it's on Pro Tools. Wasn't thinking about, we can chop this up and edit it. Let's actually play it,
Yeah. You have, as you said, your Revox and 2-track machines.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about the sort of tricks that you would use, like tape loops and?
Yeah, I can actually play you something if you like.
Sure.
So the other day I was making a cue for something. This is a Mellotron. So I can. There's nothing on that one. So you can't do this on on a keyboard because the envelopes they'll all trigger, but you can. Oh, I have to rewind. And I can introduce this other one. So you've got control of the level of those. So basically it's that. So you got and then you can also do this. I might have already done it, but you can half speed, which is another massive thing about tape that's awesome.
Very speed.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you immediately got some very cool shit going.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, and then they've got, I don't know what's on these. I've got tape loops. So these
Yeah.
loops. I think that's one of your tapes, isn't it?
It definitely is.
Yeah. These are not, but I think maybe they are. No. Got them on eBay. It's the same thing.